the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Welcome to this special episode of Resi Week. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by my good friend, Mr. Joe Whitaker, who is the new VP of Business Development for Origin Acoustics. How you doing, Joseph?
I'm doing good, getting used to a new seat to sit in, so to speak.
A new seat. Yeah, very much so. This came out yesterday. We're recording this on Thursday. So the news dropped yesterday morning that you've taken a position with Origin. You've left the company that you built from the ground up, Thoughtful Integrations. Let's talk a little bit before we get into the Origin side of the house. How long you ran your company and what prompted that switch?
So, you know, the company name-wise, you know, Matt, and a lot of people know, it went through a couple name iterations and evolved with the markets over the years. You know, I've been, an integrator for 20-something years, so it's been quite an interesting journey. But, you know, this company was, you know, built from the ground up by not just me, but Steve, my business partner. And, you know, from a nothing to doing really cool stuff and having great partnerships and, you know, just kind of enjoying everything that, you know, integrators enjoy. I mean, it's a business, but it's also a love of what we do. And, you know, the decision was, you know, really about, you know, new challenges for me. You know, when I took and I'll make this part really brief, but when I, you know, just like you, coming off of, you know, the CEDIA board, and I'd been there for almost 8 years, I really stopped and took a look at, okay, what's next? You know, and that was only like a year and a half ago or so. And I was like, you know, what's next for me? You know, what's that next step, the next evolution for myself? And also, how can I help my company in the same token? So the company itself, Thoughtful Integrations, will live on. We'll still bring the same amazing, you know, projects. There's probably a lot more awards they're going to win, but it is going to be fully owned and operated. And the new CEO is Steve Siegel, my business partner, longtime friend. We were friends long before we started the company. So it's going to continue to go on. I mean, the strategy was built by me and him, the marketing efforts, the entire thing. So I don't expect any changes, like at all. Yeah. Like, you know, it's, you know, every business owner, especially in what we do. And Matt, me and you've actually talked about this off camera times before, long before this, about, you know, that exit strategy, you know, when you're looking towards retirement, when you're getting older. And, you know, the most satisfactory thing is when an integrator can take their baby that they have built from the ground up and be able to walk away and know that it's still going to go on and it's still going to be as amazing. You know, it's like a kid going off to college. Like, that's how I really feel about it, right? You know, my work here is done.
Spread your wings and fly.
Yes, spread your wings and fly. So, of course, I expect, you know, great things for Steve. And now the interesting thing will be is he's kind of a client now because, of course, we did a lot of Origin Acoustics. So, you know, our relationship just continues to go on from here. So, yeah, I mean, no big surprises there at all, which I'm really happy to say, you know, going through the process of making this decision and all of those things, to walk away knowing everybody's going to be happy. You know what I mean? And it's still going to go on. That's the amazing part.
Yeah, that's great. Let's talk for a minute about your history with Origin, because you've done some work with them in the past, as you mentioned. Thoughtful Integrations was obviously a dealer, so you know the company well. If you don't know Origin, I don't know why you're listening to this, but I'm just throwing it out there.
And if you don't know Origin, you should. Yeah,
you should. You definitely should. And soon you'll be hearing from Joe.
That's right.
The history of Origin, it's been started by Jeremy Burkhardt, who a long, well-known legend in our channel, in our industry, from Speakercraft, started Origin from the ground up and really focused on the integration community, right? not to say that the other manufacturers don't do the same thing, but Jeremy was one of those guys that came up from the trenches, right? He knows
Absolutely
what we deal with. And I remember when they first launched, the big claim to fame was the snap clip, the zip clip, that you put that trim ring in, you cut the circle, and and you're in. And then you just lock the speaker in, which was groundbreaking. And I don't use that term loosely. Like it was shockingly simple. And why did no one else think of this? Talk a little bit about your history before taking this position with Origin, and what kind of opened your eyes to this being a good fit for you.
So, being around the industry for so long, of course I knew, Jeremy and Nick and Ed and Jim Moran from, way back Speakercraft days.
Mm-hmm.
And then, through the years, obviously a lot of things happened. There were sales and acquisitions and all those things happened. And then it was a CEDIA at Indy, where Julie Jacobson put together this thing called the Blog Mob. And it was like this was before influencer was actually a word, by the way. She picked all the influencers, pretty much, of the industry that she thought were the ones. And it was me, Bjorn Jensen, Jeremy Burkhart, Petro, Mac. It was a whole bunch of us. And that was like when we were introduced and we really made like a bond, like that personal bond.
Yep.
And then from there, it was because, this was before Origin Acoustics came out. And we were walking an aisle, and I'll never forget this. Jeremy hadn't showed, like, really anybody outside of the company he was getting ready to launch what was going on. And we're in an aisle, and me and him are looking at speakers together. I actually think we're at the Niles booth. And they had that sound bar that kind of was in pieces that recessed into the wall.
In between the stub base. Yeah.
Yes, and they had the sub that the two subs faced each other inside the wall.
Yep.
So we were looking at that, and he goes, "But let me show you something, Joe." And he whips out his phone and he shows me the zip clip bayonet rig, and I was just like, "That was it." Mind blown, right? Yep. And then from then on, me and him started talking a lot. So flash forward, I don't know, it's 4 years ago. I can't, I'm so bad with time these days. They were still Origin had started. I've been talking back and forth with Jeremy and some of the guys, and he had me go out to Riverside. And we went up to the top of this mountain, did a 2-mile hike, which exhausted me. I'm not used to that altitude or a 2-mile hike. And right then, we became friends. Mm-hmm. Like at that point, like just the bond was made. We sat on the side of this mountain and basically invented the valet amplifier, and then like 3 other things. And then from then on, it just became where I would consult with them for just over the years. It's just been a steady thing. And of course, in the consulting process, I learned a lot about that back end of our industry, because I didn't just consult for them. I consulted for other manufacturers as well, mm-hmm. handfuls of them, and developed a bunch of product in different areas, in HDMI and audio and networking, and just really got my head wrapped around that side of the business, the manufacturing and the tooling and shipping and all of those things that come along with it. And kind of got to learn as I went on the total back end process and everything. That added to the decision of, I've run out of challenges as an integrator. Like, that's really hard to say, but I mean, there's challenges on the business side. What better way to help all my friends who are Origin dealers, because most of them are, and all of that, and really, make that change and kind of move with the evolution of where our industry is going. Mm-hmm. That's the spot to do it. And talk about, it's like taking a new job just for anybody in any industry sucks, right? You just mm-hmm. don't know what you expect. Yeah. But before I said yes, I already felt like part of the family. Right. Like I felt like part of the family. I know all of the people there. So it was just a natural progression.
Let's talk for a minute about the way in which Origin, and again, I hate using the phrasing because it sounds mundane, but they really do try to listen to the integrator, right? There's a lot of companies that talk about that, Origin seems to execute that at a level that is definitely in the top couple percentage of manufacturers that pay attention to what their dealers are asking for. They just launched, and I don't even know the product name, so help me. But they just launched a commercial hanging like pendant speaker that, again, has all the qualities of a traditional Origin speaker that's hanging in a pendant and looking much better and fits UL and all the requirements for that. That's something that, integrators have been kind of hodgepodging making, right? They've been manufacturing these in the field to some degree to try and get a better quality sounding speaker than the traditional 70 volt hanging pendant speaker. Origin just brought one of these to market, which, again, there's not a lot of residential companies that are doing that level of product for, again, a smaller segment of the residential market. What makes Origin so different in that sense, and how are you going to hopefully continue to evolve that?
So, that harkens back to, the founders of the company, right? You look at like the Ed Haas and Dave Donald being involved in the beginnings of Origin, and Jeremy Burkhardt. These were the inventors of the architectural speaker. And when they were inventing these things, they were putting these things into ceilings and walls. So they get that side. They totally understand that it doesn't just stop at, we made a speaker. Did we make a speaker that it can install faster, safer, with great margins for the business? Does it check off all the check boxes? Is it easy for the guy that has it in his hand that installs it? Is it easy to get to you in your hands to do it? And does it benefit the back end, right? With, margins. So it has to check off all the check boxes. That's the way they've always been. So you look at, and as we kind of get through this podcast, I'll touch on this on my point. But, you talk about, the emerging and adjacent markets. You've heard me say that for a billion years in our discussions during CEDIA. I always look at emerging and adjacent. Those are hot topics. Well, for years, and Henry Clifford coined the phrase residential, I think, or he just uses it a lot, one of the two. But, it's like, I actually think he did coin it.
The term I love to hate.
Yes. Because I was calling it resitality. But
that's not any better.
No, it's not. But you look at all the all of that going on, and thoughtful integrations, big in restaurants, big in hospitality, living areas and MDUs. That gap has been needed to be filled with something that looks like it belongs in our space, right?
Yeah.
Something that's gorgeous, sounds good. It's not, I always say it's not the speaker in the dentist office.
Right.
That's kind of always where I lean. By the way, the models of these are PC and then what they are, right? So the PC 60 is a 60. The nice thing about it is, and man, they're probably going to hate me for saying this, but they sound really good, right? But one of the things of architectural speaker everybody always complains about is no low end, right? Not a lot of good low end.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure some of you are old enough to remember having a Honda Civic with one of those bass tubes, right? The science has always been there. It's been right in front of your face the whole time. So of course you're going to get a little more good low end in it. The mechanics are just built for it. But also in the same token, Origin has those in-ceiling subs. Well, wow, they fit in the same cylinder. Right. So I mean, it all makes a lot of sense. And then of course they did the magic of doing the things, the check boxes you need to check off. UL listing, how long that takes. They're in Canada. They don't like to open containers up there during COVID. So
or borders.
Yeah, yes, or borders. Yeah. But that's that press to innovation that they always have. They saw. And I got to talk to them a lot about this during the process, that is an emerging space, because do I think that our industry does audio and those in entertainment or public areas better than our competing industry? Yes, I actually do. 100% I do, because we don't specialize in background music. We specialize in good, move your soul music. You know what I mean? Stuff that gets into your feelings. It's like, that meme about, walking through the grocery store at my age and the grocery store puts on my jam. Our job is to elicit those emotions through sound. And I'm sorry, but the dentist speakers just don't do it for me.
Yes, you're not wrong on that.
And, talk about that commercial space. I do got to give, I got to name drop because Mark Fisher just threw it out there the other day about Origin coming out with a fire-rated retrofittable back box for in-ceiling speakers. You haven't seen it yet? Oh, it's already on social. There'll be a press release. It's fully. It's got the 1 hour class fire rating. It's fully retrofittable, so you can squinch it up, stick it through the speaker hole, and it back out, and then
Beautiful.
you put your It is legit.
Fantastic.
So that innovation in emerging and adjacent industries, like that is an important thing.
So Joey, one of the things that I want to, and I'm not even sure how to phrase this. So let me stumble through it, and then answer. And no, I'm not trying to imply anything. It's something that I'm wrapping my head around. So your official title is VP of Business Development, and typically, if we went to some of the major brands in our channel, the person holding that title, and arguably the person who used to hold that title at Origin, would have an MBA at the end of their name, right? We're seeing a huge push. Heck, some of the integration firms, their biz dev people are MBAs. We're seeing a huge push in the manufacturing side. This has been common for quite a while for the people that hold that position to have an MBA. You don't have an MBA, to my knowledge, and I'm not implying that you should or that there's an issue with you not having one,
or that I couldn't get one.
Yeah, not at all. But it's something that you would kind of expect, right? You would expect the person who is in charge of business development to have an MBA. Is that a approach that Origin has looked at and said it doesn't matter in this situation? Is it something where, and we know that Nick has an MBA, right? I'm not implying that there isn't anyone there who has an MBA or Origin doesn't know how to run a company. We know that Origin is run phenomenally well. Is your role going to differ because of this? What's the approach here?
I don't know so much that it's going to differ, right? Because you have Nick, who is an MBA, and he's amazing. And, the stuff he's done in business development, not just with Origin, but previous, has always been, really good. So obviously I have that person to lean on, right? Mm-hmm. And vet these things at that kind of level, which really is important. Especially when you're talking about, a brand that's grown so fast and continues to grow like Origin. But if anything in our trade has taught us, especially if you follow any of the CEDIA trends and all of those kind of things, is that, currently the people with real world skills are now starting to become as valuable as those who have, put that much time into the schooling portion. Yeah. Now, did I go to school? Of course I did. Have I ever almost used what I actually went to school for in my job? Almost never. I went to college for literature and English and stuff like that. It's
a whole other conversation.
It's great for communication and writing. But, when you actually look and you talk about trends in job positions, what the titles actually entail, if you actually look at, somebody who is, at that level for business development specifically, you realize that's about, sustaining those solid relationships with companies, stakeholders, and customers. That is, one of those areas. And of course, through Nick's vetting and people like, that's something that I've kind of already gotten a grasp for. over the years. And then, the analyzing customer feedback and that data to determine whether customers, are they satisfied with the company, the products, the services. That tends to fall into, a lot of skill sets of a lot of people in our industry already who don't have MBAs. And then, there's always that one key, which is on my 6-month list, right, of things that I know that I am going to be involved in, is providing insight into product development, based on competitive positioning, what our dealers need, what they require, what the market entails, whether it's how things are selling or how the economy is doing. So these are all things that, with someone like Nick already kind of at the helm, that makes this transition make a lot more sense if you look at the company as a whole and where the things that bring, Origin so much power has always been ear to the ground with the integrator, right? That communication, that family feeling that, hey, we're listening to you, we're going to develop stuff around that. It kind of makes not even just me, but a person like me suited for that role when you actually dive into what business development is today.
We're to a point where you hear it a lot in the corporate world, right? That experience can equal, if not surpass, a degree from a university. It has that. Is that true in this case?
In the specific position, maybe.
Right.
Because that can't be said about in everybody. Like a vice president.
They should go to school. Yeah, they should go to school.
Your real world life, no. You should go to school for sure. And there's other positions that are like that where, that long-term schooling and the education that comes along with it, knowledge that comes along with it, hands down will trump real life, learning. But, in certain positions, you look at, a good example is stuff that I've done contract work over the years, right? Where it's designing products or engineering and I remember doing a contract with, I believe it was Vanco, and I believe I was at a CEDIA introducing a product, and this had to have been maybe, I don't know if it was 8 years ago or so, maybe 10. And one of the first things that one of the people from Micro Center, no, it was CES, now I remember, specifically asked me was, are you an EE? I'm like, no, I am not an electrical engineer. Absolutely not. And they were like, well, how did you, come up with this? And how did you design this? I was like, real world application, real world experience. And then also the flip side of that, which was I had really, really good engineers behind me, really, really good engineers to work with. And that kind of made it all work.
There's a huge, I've noticed it with a completely different company that my company works with. And they brought on a rep who's from a different vertical. And, it's a manufacturer that deals in our channel and, big box distribution and online and electrical disto and, all that stuff. And they brought on somebody from electrical distro as the rep in the rep firm. And it's night and day. It not having someone who understands our aspect of the business is detrimental to the service that they can provide and what we get from them. So I don't think you can overlook that. The last thing I wanted to touch on, and then we'll wrap this up, as much as people love listening to both of us talk. We could probably do a Rogan 3-hour thing, no problem.
Definitely.
We've talked a couple times about your title, right? You're the VP of Business Development. That means a different thing to a lot of different companies. What falls under that umbrella? It's not necessarily a weird title. It just, the way in which it's applied can vary greatly, right? In your case, in your role as business development, does this mean that you are going to sit in the office and help develop product? Does this mean you're going to develop sales channels? Does this mean you're going to develop dealer base? Is this all of the above? What's the priority? What's the expectation that people can expect to see from Mr. Joe Whitaker, VP of Business Development at Origin?
Well, I think it's got kind of some multiple faces to it. It really does, especially at Origin. That is a company where just about everybody can do a ton of different things, without a doubt. So, of course, products is one of the key points, and working with their amazing team there that I've kind of been blessed to work with for the past 5 or 6 years, is, in those products. And, I can't say enough that the idea or the concept is to take what I've learned and take what Origin has done and, just be another hand of assistance in benefiting the integrator at the end of the day with whatever it is, whether it's products, programs, or education, right? And and a lot of people know, I've been big into education at CEDIA. Well, there's other forms of education that our integrators need, and it could be put out there. So there's developing the portions of Origin that benefit the dealers. That will always be my number one thing, whether it be products, services, education, right? So then you go on to the other portion. Like I've said, the emerging and adjacent markets. Integrators are growing in the things that they can do. I always harken back to 10 years ago. Man, that's been longer than that now. 15 years ago, not many of us, for gosh, I'm getting old. 15 years ago, not many integrators were installing big networks or even routers, for that matter. And that fell in their lap, and now they're doing that. And then shades came along, and now they're doing that. And now there's actual lighting fixtures, and now they're doing that. There's so much more that integrators can do and can be successful at. And I've toyed in a lot of those. So now it's ironing that out and being able to make that part of the portfolio so that the integrator can be more successful in their growth in those, emerging and adjacent markets that at the end of the day, we're more fit to. Because integrators do one other magical thing that typical electricians, plumbers, framers, drywall guys don't do. We know how to build a rapport with the client.
Yeah,
we are there and we talk to them, and we get to the root of what they actually want. Those are other things that are kind of on my list. But the last thing on the sales is always part of a business development job. It is. That's just part of it. That would allude to some of those other things because the dealer market is pretty much already satisfied. There's already the guy. I don't think I could ever be as good at that guy and what he does. I'm just saying. I don't want to blow your head up, Mark, but you're really good.
He's kind of a big deal.
He's kind of a big deal. He really is. But I mean, I will, of course I'll be there to help him. There's, so many trade shows, so many people to see and talk to that, of course, I'll help in that nature, of course. Yeah. But in the last thing is I'll also be, which Mark does a lot. Some of the other people at Origin, Jim Moran does a ton. Even Miranda gets out there and does it. Is in the visiting of dealers, current dealers or prospective. Yeah. And my approach is going to be a little different. I'm not just going to do the 2 hour, 3 hour sit down in your office and let's go get lunch and we'll call it a day. Sure, I'll do a couple hours in your office. I'll talk to your back office. I'll talk to your operations people and your scheduling people and your designers and all that. But then guess what? I'm going to go venture out in the field with your guys. I'm going to pick up some of their tools. I'm going to terminate some wires with them. I'm going to see what the things that Origin Acoustics can provide to those dealers that they don't even know they need to ask for. I'm going to see how they're doing things. I'm going to listen to them. Because guess what? I've been in your seat for 20-something years. But all over the place, everybody does things different. We create our own habits. We create our own processes. There's no universality to any of that at all. So I want to see. And Origin has always been about, to every integrator, every integration company, I want to be part of your team. Yeah. And guess what? You see me around, I'm going to be part of your team. and I'm going to see how Origin Acoustics can help you.
I love it. Let's leave it there, Joe. I think that's a fantastic way to end. If people want to connect with you, learn more about Origin Acoustics, schedule a meeting, schedule a site visit, how can they do that?
Just reach me at joe@thoughtfulintegrations.com. You can always find me on the socials, just Joe Whitaker. And I'm really excited about being able to kind of, help our integration community in a whole new way, at a whole new level. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time, my friend. Look forward to catching up with you soon. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this special episode of Resi Week.